Good afternoon, friends, and welcome to this press briefing on President's forthcoming visit to Sweden and Belarus. We have with us today Mr. Shambhu Kumaran, Joint Secretary Eurasia, who looks after Belarus, Secretary West, Mr. Navteej Sarna, and Press Secretary to the President, Mr. Rajamani Venu, and Mr. Rahul Chhabra, Joint Secretary Central Europe, who looks after Sweden. So the way we will handle it is Secretary West will make an opening statement. Thereafter, Press Secretary to the President will add something to that, and then we'll throw open the floor to questions. With that, the floor is yours, Secretary, sir.
Thank you, Vikas, and good afternoon, everybody. Rashtrapati ji will be paying a state visit to Sweden from 31st May to the 2nd of June. How much time do we have? Okay. And thereafter, he will be going on to Belarus on a state visit, reaching there on the 2nd of June and staying there till the 4th of June. Now, both of these, as I have said, are state visits by the President with full ceremonies involved. Naturally, his host in Sweden will be His Majesty King Carl Gustaf VI, who, as you know, has been the ruling monarch of Sweden for the last 42 years. Sweden, incidentally, is a constitutional monarchy and a parliamentary democracy. 16th, King Carl Gustaf 16th, not 6th. The President will be accompanied by the Minister of State for Chemicals and Fertilizers, which is Shri Hansraj Gangaram Ahir, as well as members of Parliament, Shri Ghulam Nabi Azad and Shri Ashwani Kumar, member of Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha, respectively. He would also be accompanied by, besides the delegation of senior officials, by about 7 vice-chancellors and directors of leading Indian universities, and over 60 business leaders will be going alongside, separately of course, but on the occasion of the two visits, to conduct a business forum with both countries. I think let's go through the programmatic aspects so that we have that in place. As I said, he leaves on 31st May for Sweden. There will be a ceremonial welcome by the royal couple, and thereafter he will be interacting with members of the Indian community. In Sweden, you'd be interested to know we have about 9,000 people of Indian origin in terms of being PIO or OCI card holders, and you have another 9,000 who are Indian passport holders and are there as professionals, IT professionals in the hospitality industry, and so on. He will also have meetings and interactions with Their Majesty King and Queen on several occasions, as well as a meeting with the Prime Minister of Sweden, Mr. Stefan Löfven, the Speaker of the Swedish Parliament, and the Leader of Opposition, Mrs. Anna Kinberg Batra. There will also be a state banquet. On the 2nd of June, the Rashtrapati will visit Karolinska Institute, which is a foremost leading institute of medicine and related studies, and he would also visit the Uppsala University, which is one of the oldest European universities and has a great tradition. Keeping in view the substantive issues that will be discussed, he will also visit a Swedish smart city and be briefed on how it works in different aspects of civic governance. In terms of the importance in the bilateral relations of this visit, I would like to reiterate that we have had diplomatic relations since 1949 based on common democratic values and a relationship which has been growing steadily, particularly in economic terms, as we will detail to you. But this is the first ever head of state visit from India to Sweden. And there, in that respect, it is a landmark visit. There have, of course, been prime ministerial level visits. There have been several ministerial level visits and official level visits, and also several important parliamentary delegations have been exchanged. In terms of trade and investment, these I can share with you for the last 10 years, this has been the main driver in quite a dramatic improvement in the figures involved, and we are already reaching about $2.5 billion of trade. But that doesn't tell the full story, because you have about 170 Swedish companies, largely multinational corporations, which have been very active in India over the years. And you have about 50 Indian companies which are working out of Sweden. Sweden is today the 12th largest contributor of FDI to India, and even the Indian companies have invested up to $800 million in Sweden. India is today the third largest trade partner after China and Japan in Asia for Sweden. At the moment, there is a very fortuitous and a very potentially fruitful matching of the economic requirements of India in terms of the several programs that have been launched by the government, whether you say Make in India or skill development, the Swachh Bharat, Digital India, and the Smart Cities Urbanization Program, and Swedish capabilities in specifically these areas, particularly in urbanization, water management, renewable energy, education, and of course, information technology. We expect a number of agreements to be signed at the government level, at the educational institutions level, and at the business level during the visit. And some of the areas could be micro, small, and medium industries. Polar research. Incidentally, Sweden had supported India's application for becoming observer to the Arctic Council 2 years ago, and for that we are very appreciative. There will be agreements signed possibly on the visa waiver for diplomatic passport holders, health, and so on. Health remains a very important area in which we have flourishing cooperation with Sweden, particularly mental health. Sweden is one of the top 3 innovative nations in the world, and therefore is a home to key research for technologies, services, and products. And India is an ideal destination for expanding these technological breakthroughs on a large scale. On the cultural side, there is a tremendous goodwill that prevails between the two countries, and in particular, I think on the visit to the Uppsala University should be seen also in the cultural connect that it has. Rabindranath Tagore's bust was installed in the Uppsala University last year, and he visited the university during his visits to Sweden in 1921 and 26, after he had been granted the Nobel Prize, not only as the first Indian, but as the first non-European in 1913. So this is broadly the program and the context of this visit to Sweden. He will continue on to Belarus. And again, this will be the first presidential visit to Belarus. President Lukashenko of Belarus has visited India twice, in 1997 and 2007. And in terms of the program, it will include talks with President Lukashenko in both the restricted and delegation level formats. There will be a banquet luncheon. The President would plant a tree in the alley of the guests of honor and the place of independence, and we will place a victory monument, a wreath at the victory monument. The two presidents will address a joint business conference on June 4, and there would be a formal launching of the Grodno 2 power projects, which is a power project which has been refurbished by BHEL on a line of credit of $55 million from India. And there will be MOUs and agreements signed, including between the PSUs as well as at a government level, covering different areas like textile, power, education, and so on. The president would also unveil a bust of Mahatma Gandhi at the Belarus State University, and he will be honored with a Professor of Honoris Causa degree by the university. He would be meeting the Prime Minister in a call by the Prime Minister on June 3, as well as the Chairman of the Council and the Chairman of the House of Representatives, the two houses of the National Assembly of Belarus. There would be also agreements in the field of SEBI, Ministry of Finance, Bureau of Indian Standards, as well as information between Prasar Bharati and National State Television, and these details will be given to you as soon as the agreements are completely finalized and ready. To give you a context of the relationship, it has been a warm and friendly and cordial relationship, characterized by growing trade and economic ties. I don't know how many of you would recall a lot of tractors from Belarus in the decades gone by, heavy machinery, dumpster trucks have been coming from Belarus. And Belarus used to be one of the most industrially developed republics in the former Soviet Union, and that tradition has carried on after its independence. So, in fact, it used to be called the assembly line country, and that is why there is a large scope today for joint ventures between Belarus and India under the Make in India program in terms of heavy transportation vehicles, in terms of tractors, in terms of other agricultural machinery, and of course defense. The trade between the two countries stands at about $400 million, and it is significant because despite the number not being as big as it could be, Belarus is our main supplier of potash. And our exports are largely concentrated on pharmaceutical issues. Besides the line of credit I've already mentioned, we've also set up a digital learning center in Belarus at a cost of 5 crore rupees. And this visit will certainly give a tremendous impetus to both the bilateral issues, as well as, I must mention this, there is very good cooperation with Belarus in international fora. Belarus has supported us on the UN Security Council issue, as well as in the nuclear supplier group issue. And Belarus, incidentally, is the only European country which is a member of the Non-Aligned Movement. So while you give some thought to that, I will ask Venu to chip in if he wants.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, friends. The President is extremely happy that he is visiting Sweden and Belarus, both of which are countries that he will be visiting for the first time. He has not visited either country in any other capacity. Sweden, as has already been explained, it will be the first ever Indian head of state which would be visiting Sweden. And the President is happy that this visit is happening at a time when relations are poised to enter a new phase with mutual economic benefits as the main driving force. The President is convinced that there is great synergy between India and Sweden. Sweden has a great deal of expertise, capabilities, experience, as well as leading multinationals with investable resources, with an interest in investing in India or with a history of already operating in India in areas which are extremely important to India and where we have launched national programs like the Smart Cities program, the Digital India program, the Skill India program, etc. So there is great scope to exploit the potential of this relationship. The President is traveling with a high-level business delegation across the two countries, Sweden and Belarus. Over 100 businessmen are going to travel and be there when the President visits. Today evening at 6 o'clock, the President is going to meet with over 50 representatives of the business community who will be traveling and who will be there in these countries when he arrives there, and he hopes to spur and stimulate further cooperation between the businesses of the two countries. Secretary has already mentioned the subject of innovation. Innovation in the President Mukherjee is going to complete 3 years of his presidency, and in the last 3 years, innovation is a very important theme that he has picked up, and he has been traveling the length and breadth of the country, urging universities to set up innovation clubs, encouraging universities to establish contacts with grassroots entrepreneurs. And just a few months back, for the first time ever, Rashtrapati Bhavan was host to a festival of innovations which saw experts from all over the world as well as students and grassroots entrepreneurs come together for discussions, for exhibition, for exchange of experience, etc. As is by now the pattern with the President, he is also taking an important academic delegation with him, comprising vice chancellors and heads of various educational institutions. As Secretary has already pointed out, they will interact with their counterparts. There will be agreements which are signed. Improving the quality of higher education in India is another major theme which President Mukherjee has picked up and has been actively advocating over the last 3 years. And he hopes that this visit to Sweden and to Belarus and the fact that he has this large number of academic experts traveling with him will help further enhance the quality of higher education in India. As far as Belarus is concerned, again, Secretary has already mentioned the strengths of Belarus. The President very fondly remembers that in the states of Punjab and Haryana in the 50s and 60s, tractors were synonymous with the term Belarus because all the tractors used to come from there. Belarus already has a record of providing agricultural machinery to India, and there is great interest in trying to invest in India and be party to the Make in India program. So the President hopes that his visit to Belarus will not only improve political relations and economic relations in general, but will also prove to be an important step in advancing India's Make in India program. And also because agriculture is an area we import large amount of potash from Belarus, we also import agricultural machinery. All these together will also significantly contribute to improving India's food security. Thank you.
With that, the floor is now open to questions. Please restrict yourself to just one question. Please identify yourself and the organization that you represent. Yes. Please use the mic.
There has been some discontent on account of President's interview given to a Swedish media about carrying the Bofors issue in that interview. And as what the media report says, that India's ambassador to Sweden has gone to the extent of saying that if you carry this part, the visit may be called off. So will you enlighten us as to what is the status now?
Okay. Yeah, the status now, I've just spent the last 20 minutes telling you the status, but I'm happy to repeat it full 20 minutes if you like. We are keenly looking forward to the first ever visit of the President of India to Sweden and Belarus.
I would just like to add that it is evident to you that preparations are fully underway for the visit of the President to Sweden and to Belarus.
This question is also about the interview. The President is the head of the government, and in your letter to that newspaper, nowhere have you denied that the President did use those words. It's a matter of detail, on or off record. What I want to know is, does the government of India believe that Bofors was indeed just something that the media highlighted?
Okay, let me just do this once, and I'm not taking any more questions on this. This subject is not relevant to the visit of the President of India to Sweden and Belarus. So let us concentrate on what the visit is about. We are here to talk to you about the visit, and I'll be happy to talk to you about the visit at any length that you like.
Sir, India and Sweden have a...
Please identify yourself.
Yeah, my name is Gautam Lahiri. I represent Bengali Daily Pratidin. So my question is, India and Sweden have a long, so far I know that a defense cooperation arrangement. So whether in this visit, will there be any discussion on the defense cooperation between India and Sweden?
I think that's a very good question, because as you know, Sweden has certain capabilities and there has been cooperation. Now, naturally, there would be discussion on all aspects of Make in India, and defense is one part of possible cooperation with several countries under the Make in India regime and after the FDI baselines have been changed. So I'm certain there would be a discussion, but this is not a defense-related visit. It's an overall visit of the President of India in which broad discussions on possible cooperation in several areas, whether we take smart cities, renewable energy, defense and environment, international issues, regional issues, climate change, all this would be discussed. So as part of that, certainly, there would be discussions. Yes.
Sir, earlier Sweden had
Please
offered...
identify yourself.
Yeah, I'm Sridhar from the Asian Aid, sir. Earlier, Sweden had offered to sell its Gripen fighter aircraft to India, and there have been reports recently that they have even offered to set up the assembly line production as part of the Make in India program. So, is there any indication that the Swedes will use this presidential visit to sort of what shall I say, put the offer back on the table?
Well, I really can't speak for what the Swedish side will say or not say, so we'll have to wait to see how the visit goes on and how the talks progress. We will, of course, keep you briefed every time we have a delegation-level discussion or a president-to-president discussion. I hope you'll be coming with us.
ऐसे मासिफ एडिटर इन दिनों हमारा सवाल आपसे है कि स्वीडन और इंडिया के बीच में आपने कहा कि 9,000 इंडियन कम्युनिटी आईपीओ और इंडियन कम्युनिटी के लोग रहते हैं, तो स्वीडन और इंडिया के बीच में कितना बिजनेस अभी तक हो रहा है और कितना बिजनेस बढ़ने की उम्मीद है?
आसिफ साहब, अभी तक जो बिजनेस है वो $2.5 बिलियन की तादाद में है, और इसके लिए ये हम लोग कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि इस विज़िट के दौरान एक नया टारगेट फिक्स किया जाए। वो टारगेट क्या होगा और दोनों साइड किस टारगेट पे एग्री करेंगी, वो विज़िट के बाद आपको ज़रूर बताएंगे या विज़िट के दौरान ही बताते हैं।
So enjoy.
Sir, there is a BAE Systems factory in just outside Stockholm. Is there any possibility of President Mukherjee going to the factory? That's
Sorry,
where
what is the factory?
BAE Systems.
Standing for?
So it's just called BAE. Like ITC, it's called BAE. But that is where the Bofors gun is manufactured. Is there any talk of President Mukherjee visiting the factory? Is there any possibility of the issue of sale of Bofors guns? Because the Swedes are still very interested in selling it to us coming up during the visit.
Shunjoy, I think you were in the room when I answered the last question. At the moment, there is no plan of the President to visit any factory.
My name is Tripti Nath. I work for the Asahi Shimbun, Japanese paper. You talked of flourishing cooperation between India and Sweden in the area of mental health. Could you tell us a little more about it? Is there any agreement between their health institutes and IBHAS here or something like that?
Yes, we'd be happy to give you the details if you like after this briefing. There is a memorandum of understanding, and there has been good cooperation and exchange between the relevant institutes involved. So my colleagues will be happy to give you the details. Yeah.
सर, इस मसले पर हिंदी में सवाल नहीं हुआ है, तो मैं आपसे बस इतना जानना चाहता हूं कि
पहले तो ज़रा अपने बारे में बताएं आप।
मेरा नाम संजीव त्रिवेदी है, मैं न्यूज़ 24 में हूं, और ये सवाल करना चाहता हूं कि एक इंटरव्यू हुआ और उसके बाद नाराज़गी सरकार की तरफ से जताई गई कि वो तीसरा सवाल था, आपने पहले सवाल के बारे में नहीं लिखा, तीसरे सवाल के बारे में लिखा। अब ऐसे में जबकि राष्ट्रपति वहां जा रहे हैं, तो कहीं ना कहीं एक जानकारी जिज्ञासा है इस बारे में कि क्या आखिर अब भी वो हार्बर करती है भारत सरकार की इस मसले को नहीं उठाया जाना चाहिए था, या फिर आप व्यक्तिगत रूप से आप लोग क्यों इतना ज़्यादा पैरानॉइड हैं इस सवाल को लेने में?
व्यक्तिगत रूप से आपने सारी कहानी तो खुद कह दी, अब व्यक्तिगत रूप से मैं क्या कहूँ आपसे? व्यक्तिगत रूप से मैं यहां से सवाल का जवाब नहीं दे सकता, मैं बाहर दूंगा आपको।
Since the head of a state is going for the first time in Sweden and Belarus, what is the major takeaway as far as Make in India is concerned?
I think
I'm Akhilesh Suman from Rajya Sabha TV.
Akhilesh, I recognize you, don't worry. I think there will be major takeaways in terms of most of the or all of the new programs of the government at the moment. Because as I told you, Sweden has tremendous strengths in several issues which are of immediate interest to us. They have created smart cities, and the president is going to visit one of them. So there certainly will be a takeaway in terms of urbanization. We hope that when we come back and after the discussions, we can formalize this cooperation, perhaps in the form of MOU or a joint working group or some other modality. There will be takeaways in terms of renewable energy. Sweden is one of the leading proponents of renewable energy, very strong on environment. There will be takeaways in skill development. The president is visiting the university, and there will be, so in several and all of these areas, I think we can look forward to very positive results.
Smita Sharma.
Smita from India Today. Sorry, I have to go back to that question for one clarification, because Peter Wolodarski, the editor-in-chief, in fact, he accused that the ambassador had called up the Daily and said that there was a threat, in fact, that if they did not retract the interview, the visit would be called off. Did the ambassador say so? If yes, was it in a personal capacity? Otherwise, what changed for the president anyways to go ahead with the visit?
I think, Smita, this I'm not going to pretend to be a fly on the wall on any telephone conversation that may or may not have taken place. The spokesman adequately answered this question yesterday and gave you an immediate clarification on this specific aspect. The visit is on, it's been on all the time, and it's going to go on.
And I may add, the ambassador made no such threat.
So just a yes or no would be fine. I know you don't want to answer too many questions on this, as is clear. But did the ambassador ask, which is a very strong allegation, that our envoy asked the editor to delete those parts, to drop the parts on Bofors? Did we ask that, sir? Yes, no, maybe?
I have no idea about what the exact conversation was. The exact clarification that you sought was issued yesterday. A conversation like this on what exactly goes on between two people, and like you and I have several discussions out here, I really can't go and set that to be a critical factor in the decision of a presidential visit to India. There has been no change in that decision, no change in that planning, and I would request you to see the main focus of this visit and to keep your eye on the main focus and not on trivia.